Hello, 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 and thank you for joining us for TurboTenant's onboarding webinar. To kick you all off, my name is Samantha. I am the Landlord Experience Specialist here at TurboTenant. We're going to be walking through using the Landlord portal to manage your rentals. I am joined today by two of our onboarding experts from the customer support team. We've got Tom and Kevin with us, who are going to be helping out in the chat and the Q&A. So excited to have them here. And here is what we're going to take a look at today. We are going to create a property and a listing in just under 5 minutes. Now, I've done this a few times before, so I may be speedier than you, but I promise it's not as difficult as you might think it is. We're going to take a look at our leads, which are those interested renters, as well as an application review. We'll also take a peek at the lease and lease agreement, two different things, so stay tuned for more information there. Take a look at the e-sign and rent payments, and then at the end, we'll have that Q&A session. Awesome. Okay, how familiar are you with TurboTenant? It looks like some of you have either just gotten started or just created your account, so that is great to see. I'm going to go ahead and slide into a new landlord account, which may be familiar to you. You may have seen this before, but we are going to use a brand new landlord account to add a property and start marketing. While I get this process rolled off, I do have one more poll for you. What would you most like to learn about? And also asking, where are you in the rental process? We know that the rental process is cyclical, so you might be marketing, looking for that tenant, getting ready for an upcoming vacancy. You may have somebody moving in soon or somebody moving out soon. So we just want to know where you're at in the process. All right, this empty landlord account, you can see nothing is happening here. We've got our dashboard menu to the left over here. We're going to get started by adding a property. Awesome. So we're going to ask first, which best describes your property? We are going to do a single family house, and I am not doing room rentals. If you are a person who has room rentals, we're going to get into that a little bit later. For the purposes of the marketing flow, we're just going to go straight single family for this. All right. And I am using a famous Hollywood house. Ooh, maybe I am. You might recognize it. And if you do, just by the address, I am so impressed. But let me know in the chat if you know what this house is. Awesome. Okay, my target rent on my rental right now is $6,000. All right, we've added the property. Now, if you have current tenants in place, if you are screening and you don't need the marketing, you can stop here. Your property has been linked. We're going to go ahead and go through the marketing. You can see that we'll push your listing out to dozens of rental sites. And on average, you'll see about 28 leads per listing. All right, my square footage here, 2477, year built 1959. Okay. Now, this rental is available October 1st. I'm going to say a year, but we can be flexible if we need to. And as it relates to this rent report, I'm going to go ahead and run the report. Kevin, can you tell me a little bit about this rent estimate?
Yes, so this rent estimate report will pull from around your property up to 3/4 of a mile away from the property. We will pull all of those other rentals that are on the market and give you a best estimate of whether or not you're low, average, or high for your rent payment for your new rental.
Awesome. So you can see here, I am in the sweet spot. If I wanted to be a little bit more competitive, or if I have maybe higher end features or brand new appliances, things like that, I might go up to the higher side. If I'm trying to be more aware of budget, then maybe I would go on to the lower side, but I'm going to stay right here in the sweet spot. I'm not going to allow smoking or pets, but if you do, you can certainly click those options as well. We are also going to ask additional questions about your pets. And if there are occupancy limits. Again, if you have an occupancy limit, you can put that in right here. We've got a link to give you some more details. All right. Utilities paid by landlord. Let's see. We're not going to pay anything, I think, for these guys. They got to pay it all. We've got a lawn. We have on-site laundry and a fenced yard and an intercom, and it's near parks and vaulted ceilings and fireplace and a garage, off-street parking, wired for internet. All of these things, right? Because it's 2023. Okay, floor carpeting. There we go. Okay, perfect. All right. Now tell me, Tom, about the listing description.
Well, the listing description, this is your title and your property description, is going to be one of the most important parts of how you're going to find your tenant. It's the first thing that renters are going to see alongside those photos that you guys, post up onto all of our listing partner sites. And with the title and description, we have a really neat feature. You'll notice that little starry button there will actually generate a title. You can click it as many times as needed. It will go ahead and take into account all of the amenities, everything you've currently entered in before this process, to give you a really great option. You don't have to utilize that full statement, but it can definitely be really helpful in just trying to figure out the right way to personalize it to your exact standards. And at the end of the day, it's going to be how you communicate to the renters exactly what you're looking for in a tenant. So it's going to be your resume for your property. And this is a really great way to get that information out there so that you can find the perfect tenant as soon as possible.
I love that you called this the resume for your property, because it truly is. It's highlighting the descriptions of the property. You can see that I've added details in here about the actual physical structure. This is going to be the house from the Brady Bunch. If you hadn't guessed it yet, you would get it when I showed the photos. I've also included details about my lease term. So there's a flexible move-in date. We've got short-term leases available. Again, reiterating no pets, no smoking. I'm also including my leasing requirements. Sometimes these are called screening criteria, rental qualifications, things of that nature. But this is what I'm looking for to determine if a renter is qualified. I've also indicated information about my rental process, which is that I need these renters to submit the free pre-screening questionnaire before they apply. I want to qualify them a little bit before they pay that application fee. All right, let's get into photos. I've got a whole bunch of photos here. Kevin, how many photos do I have to upload?
One at the very minimum, but we recommend at least 10. And when uploading at least 10 photos, that allows for people to kind of click through, get a rough idea of what the property looks like. It also helps your listing to be more or viewed more likely on all of our listing partner sites.
Awesome. So I've selected some photos. You saw I had a little error message there. So pro tip, refresh and try again. And you can see that that worked out for me. All right, we've got our photos up here. Do you have any tips on the order of the photos or how I should arrange these?
Yes, so with the photos, I like to arrange them in the way that you're going to walk through the property. So starting with the outside and working your way closer to the house, all the way through like the front rooms, to the kitchen and the dining rooms. You could put all the bedrooms together. Then if there's a specific bathroom, put that with whichever room. And then kind of ending with garage and or backyard photos. So just kind of how you would naturally flow through the property is a good way to organize the photos, like Samantha just did.
Absolutely. And you may have seen, if you don't like the photo, just click the little trash can and we'll get rid of that for you. You also have the ability here to upload a video tour. So if you have a video tour of the rental from YouTube, Vimeo, or Matterport, we can include that link here. And of course, you can also upload your photos from your mobile device if that is easier. Awesome. Okay, so now we are ready to start marketing our rental. I'm going to go ahead and click publish my listing. What's happening here? What am I doing, guys?
Well, in this case, every single one of our listing partners, which is realtor.com, apartments.com, they are going to require a phone number to verify and publish your listing. So what we do is if you choose the option to send a text message, which is my preferred method, what will happen is you will get a code. Typically, this is within 1 minute. And then essentially you just enter the code onto here and that will verify your listing, not only on our platform, but for all the partners that we list with. So that way there's no error whenever your listing is pushed out there and your property will be marketed almost immediately within 24 to 48 hours.
Awesome. Now I went ahead and skipped that step for now because I don't want to share my phone number with you. I think you're all great people, but I'm going to keep that private for now. And you can see that the next thing that pops up is it's offering me the ability to upgrade to premium. And so with premium, you get a lot of cool features that we're going to talk about through this webinar, but specifically for marketing. Are there any benefits to getting premium with marketing?
Well, you do get a little bit of a faster push out for your marketing listing. So we'll prioritize that listing just to get out to our listing partners. Definitely premium has a lot of great benefits and is something to look into. Marketing is just one of those aspects that we provide for you.
Awesome. Thanks. All right. So here is my listing. You can see I've got all my photos right here. I've got those quick details on the right. My renters can go ahead and start the application process. or we have this contact form to get in touch with the landlord. When you're using those third-party listing sites and we're doing marketing, these are the details that we're pushing out. And each of those third-party sites has their own contact form that is pretty similar to this. Questions may vary a little bit. But when a renter fills this out, we're going to automatically put them into your landlord portal to help you manage that. And we're going to send the pre-screening questionnaire to get them started on qualifying. Got all this information on the listing. When I go back into my landlord portal, you'll see here when I am ready to start marketing, I can just click start marketing online. I have the option to link out to my listing page or send a pre-screener separately. I've got that available. And when I'm ready to stop marketing, this button will just change to stop marketing online. That was a lot of information and we went through it pretty quickly. So I'm going to check in and see how we're feeling about marketing. We're going to scoot into next, a different account that's got a little bit more magic happening in it. Awesome. Awesome. Comfortable using marketing. Love to see it. If you do still have questions about marketing, again, please just use that chat or the Q&A so that we can get in touch and answer those questions. Awesome. All right. So we are in an established landlord account. You can see we've got a few different things going on. Over here on the right, we are marketing on 2 properties. That doesn't mean that I'm marketing on 2 rental sites. That means 2 of my properties are actively marketing. I also have 4 leads or interested renters. I have 1 applicant and I have quite a few current tenants. With this portfolio, I'm managing a bunch of different things all over the place. So we're going to hop into properties so you can see exactly what my portfolio looks like. Starting down at the bottom, we have our home alone house. This is a single family house. You can see I don't have a unit or room button here. It is just a single house. 4-bed, 4-bath, rent, and it has a current lease on it, which means I have a current tenant assigned to that rental. Next up, I have room rentals. I have a 4-bedroom condo that I own, and I rent out each of the 4 rooms. So if I click down here, we're going to see I have room 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can see I have lease profiles already assigned, so those are occupied. This one is actually marketing. So we're going to take a look at that one a little bit later, but that's where we're going to find our upcoming move-in. I saw that a couple of you were at that point in the process. And then we have our Rosebud Motel. This is a motel that I purchased and I'm converting into housing. So it's a slow process and I only have a few things uploaded so far. Room number 6 and 7 have current leases. It's a long story how they got there. If you're familiar with Schitt's Creek, you're already aware. And then number 10 is the first unit that I'm ready to rent out. So that is actively marketing right here. So that's where we're going to start out. All right, so let's take a look at our actively marketing property. Right here, you can see I've got my unit overview. Again, those quick looks here, 3 new leads, an applicant, no tenants. I have actions to edit, invite, screen, all those great things. Let's take a look at that listing. All right, so I've got a 1-bedroom unit, prime location. Here is my description. Again, I've got more details. I've got rent information. I have leasing requirements as well as information about my rental process. We've got all those things outlined in there. And if we go back into our account, let's take a look at our leads. So again, the leads are interested renters who have filled out that contact form either on TurboTenant listing or on the third-party site, and their information is now being uploaded into your portal. All right, so I've got some leads. Kevin, do you want to talk me through what I'm seeing on my leads page? Got different colors, marks.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, you can see that it's a little bit gray and it says new. So that's a brand new person that you can follow up with. The second one looks like you've already reviewed them a little bit, but haven't left any notes or contacted them specifically. And they have not done a pre-screener, which you would have the ability to invite them to be pre-screened with the actions button on the right-hand side. Send pre-screener. Just like that, all good there. Then on Nina shows that they have been contacted, and you can see on the right hand, or kind of in the middle, the check mark, which will show the pre-screener has been sent to them and completed. If any of these are ready to be moved on, that's the actions button on the right-hand side again, and you can invite them to apply.
Awesome. Thank you, Kevin.
Absolutely.
Let's take a peek at these leads. So we have Leslie. And Leslie actually became a lead 822. And this address is actually different than my others. So this is telling me this is an old lead and I just forgot to get rid of him. So let's go ahead and click on Actions, Archive. Awesome. Now you can see I only have leads for my currently active marketing property. If I ever needed to sort by, let's say I'm marketing multiple rentals at the same time, I can click on show filters here. I can specify a rental here so that I'm only looking at leads for that. And I can further specify by pre-screened only. If I am only messing with leads who have filled out the pre-screener, I have that option right here. All right, taking a look at Nina here. So Nina completed the pre-screener and we have desired move-in date. They want to move in sooner than the rental is available. So this is not going to work out for me. I'm also seeing that they have pets, 1 cat, and I am not an animal-friendly property. So I'm going to go ahead and click on messages and add a note here. Ooh. I can type. There we go. Okay. Now, one thing you're noticing is that my messages are not displaying. That is because I am in a test account. So if you are in a real landlord account, you will have access to messaging there in that profile. I am in the test account. So I left a message, or I left a note for myself saying that Nina is not qualified. I'm going to go ahead and archive that lead because they are not qualified for my rental. If we take a look at Santino, Santino has not filled out that pre-screener. Again, I just sent it. So let's go ahead and resend the pre-screener. All right, and we are done with Santino. We can't move forward. And next we have Sasha. So again, Sasha has not filled out the pre-screener, but is interested in the room rental. So we are going to resend the pre-screener to Sasha as well. Now, if one of these two had submitted that pre-screener and were qualified, had a move-in date that worked, didn't have pets, the next step would be to invite to apply. Once that renter gets that email, they can click on the link to start the application process. And then in the landlord portal, that renter's information is going to scoot from your leads tab into the applicants tab. Your renters are only going to live in one space at a time. They are either leads or applicants or tenants. So just keep that in mind. Now, if we scoot into our applicants stage here, you can see I have 1 applicant and we are pulling a screening report. Let's see. All right. Kevin or Tom, are one of you available to refresh that report for me?
Yeah, I can do that. I got you.
There's the email on the top there. So while they are doing that on the back side for me, let's take a look at Chad Michael's application. You can see here that I have the summary similar to that pre-screening information. We have the anticipated move-in date that matches with my available date. We have 1 occupant, which is totally fine. They are qualified income-wise, no pets and no smoking. So all of that looks good to me at a first glance. As we scroll down, you'll see that I have information to contact past landlords. Scooting into the application tab, we've got the desired move-in, total number of occupants, again, up at the top. I have our current address, past address, income, past employers, emergency contact, and then we have the self-reported background section. Now, Kevin, I know some of these questions can't be asked in some states. If I'm a landlord in a state where I can't ask these questions, what can I do?
You can turn those off. And by doing that, you can go into the account settings and go into the application tab. So again, account settings, and then application. That'll give you the option to ask or don't ask the questions. And then if you have additional questions you want to ask, you can always throw them down at the bottom for 4 additional questions that are not required, but can be submitted by the tenants.
Awesome. Yes, that is correct. All right, so let's go take a look at our applicant here. There you go. And this is in stable, Tom? You checking out the account in stable?
Yeah. I wasn't able to pull up the account. 1 second.
Okay, no worries. We'll just keep plugging along. We may have to come back to the screening report, but that's all right. If we get back into our applicants tab, let me show you an old one. Maybe we can see an old screening report. Okay, so this is an old one. Again, I am in a test account. So these are not real people. These are not real screening reports, but I want to give you a feel for what the information is. So in this one, again, not a real person. We're seeing that there's an insufficient credit history. So if your renter has not established credit, you might see this message here. If they do have issues, whether that's criminal history, evictions, or public record, you'll see numbers of those records here. And then we have this little green check mark for the identity verified by TransUnion. That just means that TransUnion, our screening provider, has looked at the information provided by the applicant and is confirming that they are who they say they are. We also have this income insights feature, which is part of our premium plan subscription. This is powered by TransUnion, again, our screening provider, and it's going to take a look at the credit history of the renter to determine if the income they reported is perhaps accurate or maybe not, and you need to do additional verification. Now, again, D is not a real person, so there is not really any information there, but you may get a green box saying it's good to go or a red box saying you might want to verify further. Again, we have the ability to do landlord references and the attachments here, full application and screening report. Now on the screening report, after we have this kind of quick peek at it, you'll see that it breaks it down further by criminal records, your profile summary, any record counts, derogatory items. We've got trade lines and collections there. We do also have a more completed sample of a screening report in our help center that you are welcome to look at. I'm sure one of our friends behind the scenes can drop a link to that help center article. Oh, there we go. See screening report. Chad Michaels is here. Maybe. Awesome. Okay. So same thing. It's a test account. So we're getting fake information here, but you can see it's all outlined there. Now, if I decided to move forward with Chad, I would click move in renter. And then the next step would be to assign Chad to a lease profile. But what if I did not want to approve Chad? Let's see. I'll click not moving in. And do any of y'all want to speak about these three options for not moving in the renter?
Yeah, so with the three options that are available to you when you click not move in, you can either archive them. What this will do, this will immediately put them into your archive list, and this is usually best done just, if they weren't involved or maybe there was some sort of, error and you just want to kind of get them out of your active list. Denying an applicant without sending a message, it will do the same thing. It will archive them. And a lot of landlords use this option whenever they're preparing to use their own customized message. A lot of landlords, prefer to take their own personal approach to how they deny applicants. But then we do provide a third option as well. And that option is that we highlight essentially their rights under the Fair Credit Housing Act. So that way you're covered as the landlord. Essentially, any renter who's interested in applying, they must submit and pay for an application and that screening fee that comes with it. So in this case, that denying the applicant will actually send out an email to your renter specifically to their specific situation, and we will highlight that for you.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right, so we are going to move in Chad Michaels. And to do that, we are going to assign them to a lease profile, which is going to be where you're basically living if you have current tenants. So let me check in with a poll, how you're feeling about the leads and applicants. And then we can go take a peek at our leases. Awesome. Looks like you're feeling good about it. Love that. If we do have questions, remember we've got that chat and the Q&A available. All right. So hopping into leases. Now, this is not a lease agreement where we have the leases. This is the lease profile. So this is more like the old school file folder when you would have somebody come look at your rental, maybe they would apply. You'd start that manila folder, you'd write their name on the side, and you'd put all their details on the inside. That's what we're doing with these lease profiles. So this leases tab is my filing cabinet, essentially. And if I needed to, again, sort by rentals, we can go here and determine specific rentals that we want to see the leases for. These are my four for my room rentals in my condo. We can also go just to my single family home here. Or of course, we do have the motel. There we go, which are my units. We're going to go ahead and hop into our room rental though, which is our condos, because we have an upcoming lease, which is Jessica Day, room 4D. Now, this is again the lease profile. So this is where we're going to store information. We're going to stay organized. And this is also how TurboTenant sets up the tenant portal side of things. So by linking Jessica Day as a tenant, when we moved them in, remember we did that with Chad, we assigned them to a lease that links them to that lease profile. And that is going to initiate a welcome email to the tenant to get them started in their tenant portal. I can see here that Jessica Day has not been active in their tenant portal since 8/22, but that's okay. I have contact information right here if I need to get in touch with Jessica. Up here at the top, we have some details about the lease. So you can see it's assigned to condo loft room rentals 4D, and we have the date here month to month. Let's go ahead and take a look at these lease settings. Kevin, what can we do in the lease settings here?
So in here, you can basically set your, you can create a nickname for the lease profile. You can also create the target rents and or deposits that you would like to collect. You'll be able to specify exactly which room, because this is a room rental, and or which property. And then this is a good spot. If you have a roommate situation where they are two people sharing the same space, or they're splitting the rent, you can give them the option to split the rent, or you can require them to just make one payment each month. That's totally up to you, as well as allow them to turn on or turn off automatic payments. You can also delete this lease if you'd like to, or convert it to a past lease. But the most important one that I think is at the very top, and that's the edit details, or I'm sorry, edit terms for the lease details. This is where you'll put in the start and end dates, or if it's going to convert to a month after that first month, or after that first year or whatever. This is where you'll do that to make sure that this lease profile stays active.
Awesome. And then we do have the option here to decide what happens when the lease ends. So again, this is not the lease agreement that we're doing here. This is the lease profile. This is just keeping you organized behind the scenes. Does this lease automatically go month to month, or does it terminate on the date above? Now, my leases are going to go month to month automatically, so we'll just save that here. Awesome. And anytime you make a change to the lease term, now my lease agreement hasn't started yet, but anytime you make a change to the lease term in the lease profile, we're going to ask if you want to lock that in with an addendum. So if you're changing the dates of an existing lease agreement, for example, for a renewal, you don't just want to change the dates in TurboTenant, you also want to have a document to communicate that change and agree to that change with your tenant. And so that's where the addendum comes in place. You can do that for things that are changing like dates and rates. You can do that if somebody is adding or removing a pet. Lots of different uses for the addendum, but we have that already built right into TurboTenant. All right, so let's save those changes and let's take a look at the lease agreement. So the lease agreement in TurboTenant is state specific. We automatically pull the address that you have for the property and we'll find the correct lease agreement for that state. Then we are going to give you the option to go through real quick with our builder or wizard to fill in the details, and we're going to give you that lease agreement. Now, as we get down here, I have already gone through the process to add these details, so we're just going to take a quick look at them so that we can scoot on to the next phase. The first section here is the lease specifics, so the start and end date, obviously. If this is a more detailed room rental, you can certainly add provisions in here. We've got the lease term set up. We've got this information. Let me go ahead and make sure I renew that month to month. So it matches the lease profile. So you can see the information in the lease profile does not automatically update the information that I'm creating in the lease agreement. I want them to match, but I do have to make sure that's done on my side. We have the rent deposit and fees set up here. So the monthly base rent, we have the ability to add your monthly pet rent. My renter is not moving in until the 15th. So their rent is prorated. And if you need help with that, we do have a link right here to a prorated rent calculator. See all kinds of tips there. I've already figured out the amount is $640. We have the ability to add in the security deposit, any other deposit, pet deposits, one-time fees, all those fun things for your lease agreement. And then, of course, what type of payments you will accept. Scooting down into the next section, people on the lease, you can see Jessica Day is the only person on this lease agreement. If you needed to add additional renters, you certainly could. We have the ability here to add an existing renter that you already have linked into your portal, or you can enter a new tenant. If you have an additional occupant who is not responsible for the lease agreement, a lot of times this is going to be dependents or minors that are in the home. You may still want to add them onto the lease agreement as an additional occupant, especially if you have children that are moving in that will be enrolling in school. A lot of times they need that registration with confirmation of their address, which can be in the form of the lease agreement. We've got the information here for uncommon scenarios and landlord details. Pet smoking and other going to be right here. Again, if you click yes, we're going to give you additional options there to fill in. Parking rules. We have already come up with these parking rules right here, but if you want to customize this, add to it, take away from it, also totally fine. You can specify what type of parking is available for your tenants here. And then we also have the recommendation for renter's insurance. We most certainly recommend that all your tenants are required to have renter's insurance. And we do also have the ability for your renters to set up renter's insurance directly from their tenant portal. That will upload automatically to your landlord portal once their policy has gone into effect. And anytime there's cancellations, updates, things like that, you'll be notified as a third-party interest on the policy. Okay, next up, we've got utility services and keys. So again, quick check boxes of utilities and services. If you are sharing utilities, we want you to include the breakdown and dividation here and your key type here. And then provisions and attachments. Now, this is my favorite section of the lease agreement. This is where you can really bulk up that lease agreement. So if you're reading through the lease and you're thinking, oh, there's nothing in here about how often to take the trash out, put it in the additional terms and provisions. If you have a drug-free policy or crime-free policy to go with your housing, with your rentals, we have that form already in the forms pack, which is included with the premium subscription. And you can actually just customize and upload it to this page, the provisions and attachments. Another really interesting thing about this tab, keeping in mind that we are state specific, there are all of these additional disclosures that some states require. TurboTenant is automatically going to put those together for you in this lease agreement editor so that you can just quickly get what you need and move on to the next step. For example, we have a lead-based paint disclosure, rent control disclosure. We have information about asbestos and drugs and floods and death and military testing and mold and bed bug. This is all California. If you are in a different place, you may not have these disclosures. And you can also add those uploads here. So let's go ahead and save. Now, if you need a more bulky lease agreement, if you have more details to add in and the editor that we offer is just not cutting it, we do have an advanced editor option. You can click into here and it's going to let you know how that works. If you have questions about that advanced editor, certainly reach out to customer support, or you can ask in the chat. We'd be happy to talk you through that. But we're going to move on to the next step, which is the e-sign. We're going to first take a look at the document altogether so we can review it. You can see it's not legally binding. Number one, this is the draft, so that's why it's not legally binding. Number two, reminder, I'm in a test account, so it's not a legally binding document. As we scroll through, you can see that information right up here at the top. Scrolling through, our details have been added in. This lease agreement has been customized. And as we keep going and going, we'll see. There we go, the signatures. So since I'm using the TurboTenant lease agreement, I have not uploaded any additional attachments. It's going to be super easy to apply the signatures here. I'm going to click finalize and e-sign. And we're going to set up the signatures. We've got the lease agreement right here. If I needed to add additional attachments at this point, I could certainly do that as well. Determine who is signing. That's my tenant, and then me, the landlord. Please review and sign. Leave a little message and then set signatures. Now, since I'm using the TurboTenant lease agreement, we are actually going to automatically apply the signature and date fields to the last page of that lease agreement. If you are using your own lease agreement, your own documents, you have attachments and uploads and additional things that you're attaching to your lease agreement, then you'll want to use the drag and drop fields for the signatures. And I'll show you what I mean. Scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Whoop. Scrolls in my backyard. You can see that I already have the signature and date fields applied here for my renter and for the landlord. But if I needed additional signatures, let's say here, then I would select the signer. We'll say it's me. And I'm going to go with initials right here. And I can determine if that's a required field or not in order to move forward. Let's say that I want my renter to acknowledge the keys right here, initials right here, and it's required. So you can drag and drop any of these fields. You can see there's different options. You can select the different signers here, which is nice, and then send for signatures. There we go. Signatures have been requested. And now when we take a look at our lease profile, we have right here the signature lease agreement. I can send a reminder. I know when it was sent. I can see that Jess has not yet viewed it. And once she has viewed and signed it, it'll kick it back to me for my signature and finalizing that document. Now, one other thing I want to show you here before we move on to the next section, which is rent payments, exciting stuff. Down here, we have the ability to request electronic signature outside of the lease agreement. So if you already have a lease agreement in place and you need an addendum, or you have some sort of other form that needs to be signed by your tenant, you can upload this way. Or if you're using your own lease agreement, you can of course do that as well. We also have the ability to build that lease addendum that we mentioned earlier, and you can upload a document to share or to store. So if I have, let's say, a notice of a lease violation that I delivered to my tenant in person or via certified mail, I may want to also upload it here and either share it with the tenant so they have access to it in their portal, or keep it private so that I can refer back to it later if I need to, but it isn't shared with the tenant on their side of things. Okay. Again, that was a lot. We're moving pretty quickly. I am going to check in before we start rent payments. How have you collected rent previously? We could answer that poll for me. And Kevin, Tom, anything here in the leases as it relates to the e-sign or the documents that come up a lot in customer support as people are getting started that we should make sure they know about?
Yeah, great question. In regards to the documents that are available to you on the platform, currently you have the forms pack, which is a really great tool for you to utilize. I'm going to go ahead and also just kind of touch on Suni's question as well. We do not have city-specific forms. While we do disclose what is required for each state, we do not have city-specific forms, but I do think this is a great suggestion. So I will personally be creating a feedback post for this. If you would be so kind, I would be interested to hear in the chat, Suni, what would you specifically be looking for in a city-specific form, whether that's like regulations or anything? I would be more than happy to pass that feedback along, as I do think that's something interesting. But another thing we do offer is this forms pack, so you can download enter to notice checklist that will really help you through that transition period, moving in and out of your rentals, getting new renters, and it's definitely something that you should check out.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love that you called out asking for more details about that request from Suni. We do have this great feature called Canny. Anytime you get in touch with customer support, which could be Tom or Kevin of any of our other friendly faces that we have on support here in Colorado, if you have a feature request, suggestion for improvement, we actually have this really cool board, I guess you might call it, where you can submit a feature request, product improvement, and you can actually vote on other landlord suggestions and add comments. So if you see something on there and you're like, oh, wow, that would be really cool, you can add a comment and say how you would use it or what you would like to see. And we are real life people behind the scenes. So we do read those feedbacks and the feature requests and all that kind of stuff and pass it along so that we can improve TurboTenant, because we are truly built by landlords for landlords. So thanks for calling that out, Tom. All right, so we are on Jessica's lease. We've sent the lease agreement. We've called out the documents. It looks like some of you have never collected rent before. A couple of you have used Venmo, PayPal, Zelle, totally cool. Other property management software, awesome. So let's just scoot into payments then. So these are my payments for Jessica Day. Few things to call out on this page. The first is right up here at the top, upcoming charges. So these have not been charged yet. They are coming up. And you'll see that I have this recurring rent charge already set up. The last charge was on September 1st. You can see that that was the due date of September 15th for that prorated rent. I actually went in and did a little adjustment on my end already, but this is my recurring rent charge. If you need to set up a recurring rent charge, you click create charge, monthly charge, and here we go. Rent. You can add an additional description if you'd like. The amount due on the 1st. She is moving in this month. But again, it's prorated and this date is in the past. So I guess my charges have to start next month. I'm so glad TurboTenant let me know what the issue was. We also have the ability to add these end dates. So this lease agreement is through July of 2024. You can also indicate no end date if you would prefer for the charges to keep going until you make a change. And then we also have this automatic late fee. So you can set up TurboTenant to automatically charge a flat fee or a percentage of the amount unpaid. I'm gonna throw that in here. And I've decided this is 1 day after the rent is due. So my rent is due on the 1st, which means the late fee will be automatically applied on the 2nd, which is 1 day after the rent is due. We also have the ability down here to determine which bank account we are linking. Kevin, can you speak to bank accounts? Linking these?
Absolutely. There's a couple of different ways to set up the bank accounts, but you'll notice here that there's an individual account for Samantha Landlord, and Samantha Landlord has 2 different accounts. One is for rents and one is labeled for deposits. Both of those would have to be checking accounts, not savings or trust accounts or anything else like that, because we need to be able to do ACH payments to those accounts for the electronic bank transfer. You'll also notice that there is 2 LLCs listed below. One is Landlord LLC and the other is Better Landlord LLC. Both of those each have their own checking accounts listed with them. One's the Home Alone and the other is Rosebud. All of those can be set up by going through account to settings, and then you can set up your rent payments. Having multiple bank accounts is a premium landlord feature, so that is another reason if you're interested in upgrading to premium.
Awesome. So I am setting up my recurring rent charge, making sure it is going into the condo loft rent account. I have obviously set these up so that I know which accounts are for which properties because I have a very confusing portfolio. And then we'll go next. When you create those monthly charges, we're going to give you a review here so you can make sure all of this is correct and then create the monthly charge. And now you can see I have 2 monthly charges. Oh no, what did I do? What do I do? It's not a big deal. I can handle this. This is the one we just created. And this is the one that was already created. And then I went back and I changed it. And then I went in and I did a manual one. So I can just get rid of this. If we click on the pencil edit icon, easy peasy, delete, delete. And that's only going to delete the rule to recharge every month. So it won't charge anything that was, or change anything that was already sent to be paid under the sent charges. Now down here in the sent charges, you can see that recurring rent charge of $640. That was for the prepaid rent. It was edited. So I did have the full amount and then I clicked on edit to change the amount here, which is super simple. And then I also added this one-time charge. You can see it's a coin instead of the little arrows in a circle for the security deposit. The security deposit is $2,400. And you can see that I've already made the note that this was paid by cashier's check. Now, if you're somebody who uses Venmo or Zelle, physical payments, things like that, you can still very much use TurboTenant for your rent payments. And on this one, I just deleted that payment. We're going to click record. You can see you select the tenant, you select what charge. You can even type in the amount that they paid if it was less than the full amount, how they paid, let's say the date that they paid. Sure. And I'm going to send a receipt right there. Record the payment. You can see it's been updated on my end. We have the details right here. So it's super easy peasy. Let's see. Did I miss anything else on rent payments? Anything else our landlord should know about?
Yes, if you're setting up a one-time rent payment, you will not, like this prorated, we'll say it's a one-time prorated rent charge, you will not have the ability to set up an automatic late fee. That would be a manual late fee if you needed to do that, just because the automatic late fees are only tied to the monthly or reoccurring rent charge.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for calling that out. And you can see that that wasn't an option on the last screen, but you've got that here now that I'm selecting rent for the recurring charge. Thanks for calling that out.
Also, credit cards are not required to be accepted, so you don't have to have a merchant account or anything like that. The credit cards, if they're accepted, or I'm sorry, if you accept TurboTenant payments, the tenant has the option to set up their checking account or a credit or debit card that goes through TurboTenant, and the money gets deposited directly into your account.
Absolutely. Perfect. All right, we went pretty quickly through that, but that was payments. So I'm checking in to see if we are comfortable adding and managing current tenants. If you have specific questions, again, we've got the chat, we've got the Q&A. Just let us know how we can help out with that. It looks like we are all good. Love that. So we'll click around a few other things that we've got here. Let's see. So payments. When you're collecting rent payments, obviously we are inside the lease profile here. We can see that we've got charges coming up. We can see that we have an unpaid charge here and a paid charge here. But what if I need a view of all of my payments, right? Let's go into the payments tab here. Now I am a new landlord. I've just gotten started, so this may not be completely up to date for me, but we're working through it. We've got here in our payments tab, we've got the overview for this month, which is September. You'll see that I have an indicator of the past due as well as unpaid amounts. So unpaid amounts mean that the charge is out there, but it might not be due yet until the 6th or the 10th. Well, I guess today's the 12th. So not until the 15th, for example, on that prorated rent charge that we had. We have the amounts that have been paid this month, any funds that are in transit or deposited. We also break it down by the rentals, leases, tenants, and you can view that by year as well if you want a more holistic view. Getting into the charges tab, you can see we have all kinds of cent charges here, and we can sort those by the rentals, by the specific lease rental if we need to. We've got the lease option here. We can choose specific categories, statuses, and of course dates, and then export those. And similar here in the deposits. Now, again, I'm in a test account. I'm not actually getting any money from these fictional characters, but if I were, I would see a track of my deposits here. You can see we've got kind of a ghost image of what that would look like for you with the tenant, the date, the deposit date, amount. So we've got all those details right there, which is super cool. Awesome. We also have one thing that we didn't mention is maintenance. So back on my dashboard page, you can see I have one open maintenance request. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Fireplace inspection. So you can see I have the ability here to look at all, open, or resolved, which means they are completed. I can also, of course, sort by the specific rental if I need to manage that way. If I need to create my own request as the landlord, then I can do that here. And let's take a look at our renter. Let's see, fireplace inspection for Lincoln Avenue, which is my home alone house. All right, so this is what the work order looks like. The maintenance request, when it was requested, the renter has indicated they would like me to coordinate a time to enter before repairing. And it's the fireplace. The description is that they would like to have the fireplace inspected ahead of the weather cooling off. That seems totally reasonable to me. I can do this myself. And of course I can send a message right here. Oh, nope, can't send a message, just kidding. I can send the work order to a third party if I have somebody else taking care of this issue. It's going to send them the information. Or I can, of course, mark as resolved here. Got that available. If you needed to create your own request, there we go. You select the property. We can select the room. And then here's a really cool feature that I like. Let's say that I know that this tenant is moving out soon and I need to go in and do an inspection, or I'm gonna have to replace the carpet or something of that nature. And I don't necessarily need to tell the tenant, but I do need to keep track of it. You can go ahead and set up this work order, but not select the lease. If you select the lease, it can notify the tenant. If you don't select the lease, it will not notify the tenant. So I can have this maintenance request for me, but not necessarily inform the tenant that I'm replacing the carpet, for example, when they move out. You can add additional things here. Okay. And of course, I'm creating this for myself, so I can enter anytime. Let's see, rip out carpet for replacement and create request. You can also add photos. This is on your side as a landlord, or of course your tenant can upload those as well. We also have expenses here in the expenses tab. You can track your expenses by property, organize expenses, Schedule E categories, or we have this comprehensive accounting with REI Hub, which is going to be a more robust set of features for managing your financials. This can also link directly with your bank account, which is really cool. It can automatically sort and organize your expenses and income. Very cool tool to check out. If you click on Learn More, you do have the ability, in the accounting tab. There we go. You have the ability to view a demo account. You can check out additional features that REI Hub offers. And then we've also got this toolbox here where you'll find additional partnership and tools. Down at the bottom, you can see those calculators are available to you, as well as more details about the premium subscription. All right. Do we have any questions waiting for us, guys? Or anything that you think we should call out that we missed, that new landlords maybe get hung up on?
You know, I would actually like to touch on MBH and Life Associates question here. It was a little earlier in the chat, so I definitely want to address it as well. You were stating that your charge section doesn't have a drop down just to let you choose which day to make that late fee each time. So whenever you create a recurring charge, there should be an option for you to choose when that late fee occurs after that specific date. However, this is a one-time late fee. It sounds like you might be potentially asking for a daily late fee. It is something we have discussed, but is not currently in the platform. So if you did need to add a late fee on top of each day, like let's say maybe you have a daily late fee occurring, you know, after the 5th, and then every single other day it's an extra $10 or something like that, then what we would just recommend you do is create a one-time charge to reflect that. You can create a late fee as a one-time charge and represent it that way. But that's kind of where that disconnect is, where you might be having some questions. So I just wanted to make sure I addressed that here.
Awesome. And yeah, so you can see I went into one-time charge. Late fee is already a category that I have here. And you can indicate first day late, second day late. It is a little bit of a manual process on that end, but it is something that we've heard from users before. So if you check out the candy board, you can vote on that feature. You can add some notes. Awesome. And then the last thing that I will share with you is our Need Help tab. So Need Help is a great place to go if you are looking for help on TurboTenant specifically. We have the Help Center, which is going to be walkthrough guides and explanations on using the different features in TurboTenant. You can send a message to the team here or using the little chat bubble down here. That will get you in touch with people like Tom and Kevin behind the scenes to help you out. And if you are a premium plan subscriber, you can, of course, schedule a phone call here for our team to call you and review your account with you, answer any questions that you have as well. And I think you all are offering something really cool with this onboarding service that we've got. Would one of you like to speak to our white glove service, Turbo Launch?
Absolutely. So Turbo Launch is a 30-minute call. It's similar to this, but it's a one-on-one walkthrough where Tom or myself will have a conversation with you, get to know specific questions that you have, and walk you through specific options and help you get to know the TurboTenant platform. And that is a 30-minute scheduled phone call. It's going to be Monday through Friday. Both Tom and myself take those calls and get to know you and walk you through anything, like I said, specific. You will get an email, I believe it is tomorrow. Is that correct, Samantha? Yep, so tomorrow you'll get an email that will have a link in it, and you are more than welcome to sign up. This is a great way to get the very beginning of your account set up and understand some specifics on setting up your rent payments or multiple bank accounts and that. It's also really great for all of our free landlords because it is offered to both free and premium landlords.
Absolutely, absolutely. And obviously this onboarding webinar is to help you get familiar with TurboTenant, but digging in deeper, these guys are the experts. So anytime you chat into support, there are 10, 12 on support these days.
Sure.
Based here in Colorado, all real people who actually care about you and your rental business and helping you succeed, which may differ from other rental softwares that you have experienced before. So if you have any questions, literally anytime, if you have a question about how to use TurboTenant, a question about landlording in general, you're not sure what resources or even where to start when it comes to things like, let's say, pricing your rental, or you're thinking about buying a property that already has tenants, what are you supposed to do? We have resources for that. So anytime you can reach out to our team, you can see here on the screen, we've got chat support using that need help tab or the little chat bubble. We also have support at turbotenant.com to get in touch with the team, as well as phone support for premium. And if you're getting crazy, looking for more resources, you can check out turbotenant.com/education. We have courses to help you with fair housing, as well as with TurboTenant and with taxes. We have webinars about things from Section 8 to evictions, to emotional support animals, to landlord insurance, and all the things in between. And then we also have a really active YouTube channel. So if you just search for TurboTenant on YouTube, we put all our recordings there, as well as our exclusive Be a Better Landlord series featuring our CEO, Seamus. And we have an exclusive Facebook group called Better Landlords. So if you are not part of that group, it is a great place to get in touch with other landlords, share your stories, get some experience from other landlords, and it's just an all-around fun time. Awesome. I see Krista dropped a link to education as well as for the Facebook group. So we'll give it just one more minute to see if any other questions sneak in. Oh, we got one. Okay, here's a great question. Kevin, I see you're unmuted, so I'm going to give you this question. Where do I find the cost of TurboTenant?
You can go to turbotenant.com and click on landlord and then pricing, or it's just $99 a year for premium support. And if you reach out to Tom or I and do one of those phone calls with us, we can get you a $10 off for the first year. So we've got some ways to help you get started for $10 less, but total $99 a year after that.
Absolutely. So we don't have a really complicated pricing page, structures and tiers. You have a free account or you have a premium account, and both are great and are perfect for different styles of landlords. You get all kinds of cool features in there. It is $99 a year for premium, but if you follow that link in the email we'll send you, then you get $10 off. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tom and Kevin, and to all you landlords for joining us for the onboarding webinar. If you have any questions, you know where to find us, but I hope you all have a great rest of your day.